Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon your time zones. My name is Pastor Yemi Omogboyega. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't subscribed before, please endeavor to subscribe and pass your comments as well as like our videos. Then press the notification button so that you get to know when we upload new videos. Share our videos so that everybody will benefit. God bless you. I want to talk on the fragile relationship amongst parents, children that are of age, and in-laws. In-laws. Parents and children, the best time they have together is the period when their children are up to the secondary school education level. And some are even less than that, especially those who put their children in hostels at a very tender age. Maybe they have their secondary school out of their homes. So already the children are detached from their families. And as they go on to their university, or let me just say to their higher tertiary institutions, of necessity, children are bound to leave their parents. And that is the beginning of their physical separation from one another. By the time they are through with their university education, the next thing is that is expected is that the girl, even both of them, male and female, they are expected ordinarily, all things being equal, to have had an eye or their eyes outside. That is, they are expected to have been, if they haven't found already, to have been looking forward or to have identified someone that they will marry. From there onwards, the next thing that they will be looking for again is to begin to pursue their career path, except the few that might advance their education beyond the first degree and master's level, who might still tarry a while, or those who read courses that are long, that have longer years like medicine. So, after all said and done, the children will look for work, and the next thing that will be paramount in their lives is to be looking forward to get married. And parents have been involving themselves in the lives of their children from their tender age, in fact, from the womb up to this point. Parents shoulder responsibilities for feeding, for clothing, for school fees, for whatever the needs of these children are. When it gets to the point of marriage, contemplation of marriage, then two things might happen. The children themselves might identify their would-be partners by themselves, especially in this jet age when, before they graduate, they've identified who to marry. Then the second option is, getting their partners from the recommendations of their parents. We've had cases where parents would identify potential partners for their children, and they will recommend to them. And if the relationship is very cordial, some children will not mind because they trust the judgment of their parents. And as a result of that, they may consider, taking to their parents' advice or choices. However, the other sources where they can find their would-be partners from could be the Church of God, because I know the church is also a major factor because of the various singles, seminars, and all that, especially from among the choir fold. So they may find potential partners there. Another source is that it could be from amongst friends. People flocking together and in the process getting to know one another. Bam. Potential relationship, potential partnership or marriage partner might surface. And in these days, people are looking for social media. There is social media dating, and all that. Whichever way a wife or husband will come will depend upon the nature and the environment in which the would-be partners live. We've had some cases too where, let's group this one together, a relative might also find somebody that is he or she considers suitable for their loved ones and make recommendations. So we group that under family too. So, from all these sources, and on some occasions, on social occasions, people go to parties and they come across one another. It does happen. Another source is from your place of work. You may find a suitable partner there. So it all depends. Whichever way, the one that I want to narrow down to are just two situations where you yourself, you find your own wives, identify your own wives, then, or They are on recommendation from other people, starting with your parents, your relatives, friends, and others, like I said. Now, in those days, if you look at, if you're a Christian, during the time, the biblical days, children, they always walk on the instruction or guidance, under the guidance or under the recommendations of their parents, because that's the first place you look up to. The examples are there. When Isaac was to marry, Abraham had to send his servant to go and fetch a wife for Isaac. And he went and came back, found one, and came back with a wife. He paid the dowry and so on and so forth. Isaac got married. But in the modern day that we are, children prefer to identify who they want to marry by themselves. There's a social change, and everybody wants to do what he likes or she likes. So things have changed. The day whereby it is the parents that will decree who their children will marry is over. And when the two ways is this, it depends on your own. If you want to marry by yourself, you don't want your parents to identify children for you or would-be partner to you. All you need is you identify them from outside, bring them home for your parents' assessments, and bam, if you are satisfied, the process begins. And then your parents will make inquiries, this and that and that and that. But bet human, before parents can recommend anybody to you, assuming it's the parents or your parents that are recommending somebody to you, all you need to do is be rest assured that your parents must have identified that girl or boy as a potential responsible husband or wife, which we call wife material. Parents know so many things about the young ones, especially if they live within the same vicinity. They will understand the history of the family of the potential person that they want to bring into their family through their children. And if need be, they will carry out medical history. They will also have known so much about the character, because parents look for character beauty, which is the most significant beauty you can ever think of. There is no gainsaying that a girl that is pretty but mannerless is not a wife material. There is no doubt also that a young man or a bachelor that is handsome but lacks good manners or good morals is not likely to be a responsible husband. So they would have sifted all that. But the ones you are bringing home by yourself, your assessments, you will have done some assessment yourself to see whether the person will be compatible with you, whether he is somebody that you can choose as your husband or wife, so to live with for the rest of your life. And there are a lot of characteristics that may have crossed your mind. But as young people are easily attracted by something like background, financial background. Maybe he or she is from a wealthy family. It could be that physical beauty, looking at the features of the girl or of the boy, and consider the person to be somebody that we would love to live with. It could be that you are looking at it that, okay, you are from the same school. Maybe you attended the same school and you graduated together, or one graduated before the other. Then you also could look at how sociable or introvertible somebody is. The person will assess. And then we will not rule out character. Character beauty, which is the most important thing anyway. You will look at it as if this is the person I can consider to be beautiful in character. That I know I can live with. So if you bring such person home, your parents will now come round, or parents generally will now come round and take off from there. Mind you, if the relationship between you and your parents, or between you parents and your children, is a cordial one, you will flow together. You will walk from the question to the answer. But if the relationship is not cordial, maybe a terrible experience for both of you. That is for both parents and children. And as you go on in the relationship, let's assume that you flow along together. The child will allow his or her parents to carry out necessary due diligence and before they reach conclusion. And this will include also the involvement of, as a Christian, you want to involve your pastor, even though it is not compulsory. But anything that the name of the Lord is mentioned, that thing, it means that one has regard for God. That you didn't involve your pastor does not mean that you don't have regard for your parents. No, for your God. That you didn't involve the pastor does not mean that you didn't have regard for God. But it is the emotional part of the whole thing. Because behind everything that we are doing, we want to make sure that God is involved. Even though God is already involved in the process since your parents are involved. So the most important factor in reaching the conclusion of who to marry or who to drop is your parents. And that is why they call it parental consent. Once your parents say go ahead, in fact, psychologically you'll be balanced to go ahead because you have the opportunity of making consultations and so on and so forth. But today, because of the fragile relationship that is very common between parents and children, many children don't involve their parents in the search for who they will marry. But they only use their parents as rubber stamps. Whatever decision they take, their parents are bound to give consent. Not because they assessed, not that the parents assessed the situation to be right, but because the children might revolt if they say no. And as you go on in that relationship, if it is the one that your parents recommended for you and you accept, as you go along in the relationship, especially after marriage, definitely there will be issues in marriage. In fact, the first 5 years of marriage is almost about the most turbulent, followed by the next 10 years in marriage, or 20, the more. Let's put it 25 and 20 years in marriage. Those first 5 years, you are just trying to adapt to one another. Then the remaining 15 years are the periods where you shoulder heavy responsibilities. Especially today that children start school early, you start bearing heavy responsibilities. So challenges may come, misunderstandings may come, everything might come. If your parents' relationship is okay with you, you will discover that your parents will be of immense support in this relationship. And this is the period that if you don't have, bearing any exception or bearing anything to the exception, this is the period that couples are expected to have had the number of children they want to have, and they need their parents' support, moral, physical support. This is the time they will be nursing babies, and parents, particularly mothers' involvement. If the husband is not alive, or even if the husband in the house is alive, that is the father of the couple that we are talking about, is still alive, mother's support will be limited to maybe when they have babies, she goes there, they spend one or two, maybe about a maximum for husbands who can tolerate. You can spare his wife for a month or two if they are within the same locality. When I say locality, maybe within Nigeria, but maybe 3 months, 6 months, for the sake of those who are abroad, who want their mothers to come and help to raise their children and to help them in one way or the other. And the length of time is just because of the need to justify the costs incurred upon the woman to visit them, like ticketing, the ticket fees and all that. So they want to maximize that. That's understandable. So if you are the one that found your own wife yourself, and your parents gave consent, the same thing. So you will cooperate together during all those periods until the couple completely is able to stand by itself. Therefore, the relationship will flow. However, let's look at the relationship now. The exception. The exception is a situation where the child brings who he or she thinks he will marry, and the parents didn't agree. All the same, they just have to rubber stamp because they don't want to be a stumbling block to their children's marriage. You will see that in that relationship, it may be so fragile that even though it will go on, may God help the couple to succeed. There will be no complaints. But if they have issues that are always bound to come, and they needed moral support, the moral support or psychological support of their parents, they may not get it. And even the wife that thinks that the parents do not welcome them will not relate well in that family. And that will be a major problem in the family. But let's now see, how do we now relate with our children? This time around, our married children's family. Today, many children don't even want to see their parents at all, whether father or mother. Today, many children do not want to see their mother-in-law. They don't want to see them. And let me take it like this. Let's say the man marries and the wife is not in good agreement with the family. Such wife will not want to relate well in that family. Then it could be that, if you are the girl and you are married to that family, how do you then relate with your own father and mother as a girl, even in your marriage? Some girls have good, very cordial relationship with their mother and their fathers. But there are some of them that do not tolerate what they consider as excessive or limitless contact with their mothers, and by extension, their husbands that are the in-laws to their own, that is to the wife's parents. Also, just like the woman might not welcome the family of the husband, the parents, the husband equally might have the same kind of relationship with the mother or with the parents of his wife. This is the fragile relationship that I'm talking about. And it is just commonplace. If you are lucky to have parents that all of you, the wife's side, the husband's side, are in good accord, congratulations. Congratulations, because everybody will be welcomed from all angles. But a situation where there is resentment, that is a fragile relationship. You will find that managing this fragile relationship is very difficult because a lot of misinterpretations, a lot of things that will happen that will make the marriage shaky. That is why we, as parents, we must really be able to read between the lines and relate, never in the excess of what our children permits us to be, to relate. The reason is this: anytime we relate beyond the level that are permitted or permissible by our children, they will misinterpret it as us being intruders, one, as we parents being wanting to control or rule their marriage too. As in the worst case scenario, they can even call us witches or wizards. It depends. It can be as bad. So the first thing that we as parents should understand is that we must know the limit of our acceptability in our families, failing which on our children's families, failing which we will be misinterpreted, and it can create a serious fragility that can lead to, in the worst case scenario, the divorce of our children's families. We need to be very careful. We need to be very careful. As for me, or my wife and I, for instance, what we do is this. Thank God, I would say we have good relationship with our children. Not as if there are no, that is 100% as one would think. No, because there are divergent opinions. All right? So there is a good relationship, but we try to set the boundary, or to know the boundaries, the limits within which we should tread, so that we don't become problems with our children's families. Yes, if they need help and we are available, fine. Or not that we overstay. We don't overstay. Number two, we operate within the limits or the boundaries that our children set for us. Where they ask us to stay, we will stay. Yes, their home is our home, but we must respect their privacy. We must respect their privacy. Another thing that we don't do is we don't interfere in the day-to-day management of their homes. We can support them. All right? For instance, my wife can support her daughter-in-law. And I too can, depending on what is there to do. But we must not take ownership, the position of the owner of the house. We are mere supporters and advisors. And when we talk of advice, one, we don't give counsel anyhow. The counsel that is most advisable is the one that is sought for by our children. Otherwise, if there's something that we feel they could do to better their relationship or to make things work for them, we must make it in such a way that we seek their permission before we start airing the views. Otherwise, they will see us, rightly or wrongly, as controlling and ruling and administering the home for them, which they don't like. This is what is causing many problems in many homes. When parents go to their children's families to maybe spend holiday or to even relate with them. So we don't go into all those excesses. And also, husband and wife talking to one another, whether they are quarreling over one thing or whether they are even joyful together, joyous, and when they are having their private discussions, we don't get involved. There is a forum for larger family discussions and relationship. But as far as their private lives are, we don't get involved. And if we notice anything that could escalate into problems or anything, maybe on how, because you see, as we are all living together, consciously or unconsciously, we are observing what is happening around us. As human beings, they are observing us, we are observing them. So anything that we are doing that they interpret to mean that we are lording it over them or we are ruling or administering their homes for them, we avoid. Very, very essential. Otherwise, we parents might be the cause of the problems in our children's homes. A situation where a mother will come and, let's look at it this way. I watched a video on the social media where a woman traveled from Nigeria to the US to live with the daughter, married daughter. And it got to a point, this woman dominated the family. She was dictating anything she wanted. She was lording it over the entire family, such that even the daughter had to complain. And the husband was doing everything to please the woman. This husband of the daughter was doing everything to please the woman, including renting a shop for her, stocking it so that she could be busy. But this woman poked noses so much into the affairs of the relationship that it became a soured relationship. It got to a point, because she has taken control of the house, that she had to pour hot water, boiling water, lifted from the gas burner, and attempted to pour it on the husband of the daughter. So she has taken ownership. She would take the child, I think they had only one child or two, with her, to sleep with her, and the parents will have no access to the child. That kind of relationship until she wishes to. And she took over the entire family's affairs, that indeed at a point the husband had to run away from the house he and the wife were living in, and the house exclusively belonged to the man. Because the story was that this girl was having nobody to help her when she got to the US, and this guy helped her and married her. So the girl was very much in love with the husband. But the troubles of the mama was so serious. To cut the story short, the girl had to commit suicide. That is how terrible parents' interference with their children's families can be. If it were even divorce that it would have been a different thing. But it led to the woman to the girl, committing suicide. And she left a note. Mama, your first son committed suicide as in quote, as I'm doing now. And that this was how you troubled that your son until he committed suicide. And that she too was following suit. But that let it be on record that she is a destroyer of homes. That she loved her husband. Her husband loved her. Though they have normal family scuttles. It's all over the media. And after this had happened, the woman was the one that came to report on the social media. Zawikoko's Rotimi Daniel's channel. So the woman, the mother-in-law, was the one that went to the media to report that the husband of the daughter had been maltreating her, doing everything to make life uncomfortable for her. And the truth was not known until Rotimi Daniels went into investigations and the truth became known. So many mother-in-laws, in the name of trying to, can we say, to help the families of their children, they at the end of the day destroy their family. That is why it is very important that we know our limits. We know our limits, especially when our children we are relating with our children. You see, we can no longer relate when our children are married. They have had a family of their own that we should allow to be nurtured by them. By them. 2, we should not be the type that we place upon them heavy yokes like the one that woman placed upon that couple. 3, we should not be the type that is always poke-nosing into the affairs of our married children's family. And we should tread with caution. We should let them relate the way they should. We should not, in fact, it is wrong for the husband's father in particular, to think that because this is my son and this is the wife, then to lord it over the two of them. It is wrong. Likewise, the wife, it is wrong. It is also wrong from the parents from the other side to do the same thing. Because at the end of the day, we may end up creating tensions that may not all go well with these families. So we need to tread carefully, which is what I try to do. My wife tried to do. We try to do. Thank God also that we have, our two families are in good, in a friendly relationship. So we should try not to be too close. Otherwise, even things that doesn't concern us, we wouldn't know when we dabble into it. And at the end of the day, our love may turn sour. We need to be very careful as parents how we relate with our married children. It is not our duty anymore to know how much they used to cook soup. Even if they are having issues, it is not for us to jump in and begin to castigate one. It's a dangerous something. It's a dangerous precedent can be set. For instance, it will be wrong for me to be castigating my daughter-in-law or even castigating my son. The only thing I can do is if I notice anything that is like that, and like I always say, particularly invited, but whereby I notice something that may need to draw their attention to, it has to be done in such a way that it is permissible before we come in. I cannot lord it over and say, I decree, my son, you should do this. My daughter-in-law, I decree that you should do this. No. No, no, no. We may end up ruining an otherwise thriving relationship. When the couples are blending, it's a sensitive period, and it's a fragile period that we parents, the parents of the couples, must know how not to aggravate matters. We need wisdom. We need prayers for them. We should never be the cause of their problems. Rather, we should be the solutions to their problems. So, we parents should be very, very careful because we have to understand the tolerance level of our children. Do you know one thing? There are some situations that our children will send the signals to us. We need to be able to read those signals and behave in accordance with their wishes. If not, it means we are imposing ourselves on them. And if this should happen, we may irritate them. That is why, I love my mother-in-law. When my mother-in-law visits us, the maximum she will stay. Maybe has my mother-in-law ever passed the night with us before she died? Just on one occasion. Just on one occasion. Or maybe on social occasions when it becomes obvious that, it is not safe for her to go. We will beg and beg and beg and beg. No, my mother-in-law will say, look, I don't want to stay around in my in-laws' house because I don't want to be belittled, and I don't want to be involved in anything that they will accuse me of later. I have my husband's house, let me stay there. I didn't understand. I just wondered what type of a woman. She brought her children's food and pray with them, play with them. If she visits on normal, regular visits, maybe once in a blue moon, And when she comes, you drops her children's food, finish, and she's going. I didn't understand this woman. But I came to realize that she actually had helped to build our relationship. Because this woman, she always says one thing. I am in my husband's house. I want peace in my children's house. And I don't have to wait until I'm told before I know my limits. Oh, throughout, this woman, thank God too. You see, be careful of a situation where husband and wife are in agreement with one another. And don't pray for a situation where your son and your daughter-in-law will not be in good accord. Respect them for who they are. Let them manage the affairs of their lives the way they want it. If they say, come and stay with us, or come and enjoy holiday with us, go, but don't stay for too long. Don't stay for too long. And when you are there, do not cross your boundaries. That's what we are doing. We don't cross our boundaries. And indeed, we live when the ovation is loudest. We will, except there is anything that will make us to stay for as long as they wished, we will not be there. We will not be there. We will not be there. And we don't, you see, one thing is this. We need to be careful of what we say in the presence of our children's families. We are not having the same social status. We don't even have the same standard of living. But this family they are trying to build, let them build it the way they deem fit. Let's not do anything that will make the husband to look stupid before the wife. Or don't let us also say the things that will make the wife to look stupid before the husband. Even when they have disagreements, don't intervene. Don't say one is stupid or one is lording it over the other. Let them slug it out by themselves. This is how we could allow these children to adapt and build their relationship on solid rock. That is even why, like I said, we don't like staying longer than necessary. It is better we are always invited to come than to say, we don't want you. That's our own values. Because when you overstay at a stage, you may discover that you are doing things that they don't like. Everybody likes to be in control of their home. Let us all always permit our children to be in control of their homes. If they need us, they will call us. If they don't need us, nobody. These are the areas that extended families, that is parents and their children's families, cross themselves. And bad relationship begins. Let them live an independent life. My wife and I, if not for necessity, hardly would my children see me They might see my wife as often as they need her. But I, as the husband, I am there I'm with her because there's something that my wife must do for me that I cannot do myself, and that they cannot do for me because they too will be busy. Maybe they go to work and everything. So, thank God that we are both alive. So the little we can do, we do. And we need to be very, very careful with our children's families, because at the end of the day, if anything happens and they attribute it to our negative contributions, even their children will never forgive us. That's one of the implications, because everything we are doing, if the home is settled, they will be grateful. But if the home has issues, the children in that home will have us to blame later. That is why we always are careful. One, not to go to our children's families without being invited. And if we must come without being invited, we must give notice that we are coming. That's one. And they must approve it. That's equivalent to being invited. Number two, when we are there, we must not overstay. We should stay within the limit of their tolerance, both in domestic affairs and everything. Three, we must not interfere in their private affairs. No, yes, the home is our home, but we must remember that we are visitors there. Yoruba will say, Ajá kìí rorò kó ṣí ojúlé méjì. We cannot exclusively manage our own relationship and then again go and relate with our children's relationship as if they are they are not a unit of their own. It will backfire. It will backfire. It will, and these children will revolt against us. So, we should always remember that our families are different. Me and my wife, we are different from my son's wife and my son. We are different units. Everybody should manage their homes. I should be in control of my home. My son should be in control of his own family. I should be in control of my family. So if we observe these boundaries, we will have less issues and we will respect one another. Children of today, they are very fragile. We need to be very careful. We need to be very careful as parents. If not, we might unconsciously create problems for our children, and it will be extending to our grandchildren. Every wise parent will learn from this and endeavor to, in every situation, relate in moderation with our children. God bless you. I hope you've learned something. Please, once again, share these messages, especially to all married people. If you are children today, you'll be a parent tomorrow. We are parents today. Our own children will become parents, and their children will marry, and then they too will become parents. So shall it be for every one of us. Let us ensure that we do not create bad blood in our children's relationship. God bless you. Please share, like, and press the notification button so that you get to know when we upload new videos. Let us be family builders, not family breakers. God bless you.